Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined by Lori Varsames, our personal and professional coach at Lori Varsames Coaching from beautiful Sonoma, California. Please welcome Lori to the show. How are you?
Hi, Jill. Thanks for having me today. Doing great.
Pleasure to have you here. And of course, the field she's in, we probably can all relate. Ladies out there, women midlife going through some burnout, feel stagnant, overwhelmed. Well, that's why she's here, and she's helping so many through her personal coaching program, and she can help people just like me and you out there. So first and foremost, Lori, would you mind telling us a little bit about what you do?
Well, I'm a personal and professional coach, which means I help people with, their life coaching challenges, whether it's relationship or lifestyle, and then professional in the realm of career changes or maybe even just job changes, staying in within the same career. And then I also coach women who are starting their own businesses, which is totally fun.
Okay, well, we're going to break down some of the things you're doing specifically, but first and foremost, I think it's always important to find out more about you. Reading up on you, you mentioned that you've always been a coach in a sense, right? Because you were always there for people. Could you share a little bit of that background?
Well, I think like a lot of the coaches that have come on the show, I'm one of those people who I call myself a little bit of a bartender, People tell me their problems, and that's always been the case. And I found that in one of my jobs in marketing that I would hang out more in the kitchen waiting for people to tell me their problems than getting excited about doing the work I was supposed to be doing. So that was my first tip, that it was time to be a coach.
You mentioned you survived, 3 different recessions, 3 career changes, being laid off. So pivoting was like your middle name.
Totally. Not an easy thing to do. And I'm glad that I learned to do it when I was younger. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so that actually is part of the environment that I grew up in. So change is kind of my middle name, which is ironic because I used to hate it as a kid, but now I live for it.
Well, thank you for being here. Excited to talk more about the work you're doing. And I know we're going to break it down. Let's start with the condition of women in middle life and what that can consist of. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think by the time we get to midlife, we're in the middle of, it's an old-fashioned term to call a midlife crisis. That's it's an old term from the 60s that really doesn't apply because it implies that there's one thing that just kind of sets you off. But really, it's a series of, ebbs and flows and midlife malaise that we all experience because our values are changing. Things aren't working anymore because we have old values from growing up that don't apply to our newer selves. It's kind of like a second adolescence. And then you pile that on with the condition of women in midlife who are, for the most part, caregivers, even if you don't have children. And sometimes it's caring for elderly parents or caregiving for your team or being that woman who is there for everybody but herself. So burnout is a really big thing for women in midlife because, typically we're at the peak moment of our careers. We're suffering burnout either from toxic workplaces or giving too much or the caregiving. And in the workplace, let's face it, people pleasing is really what's expected of women. And if you're a woman of color, times 10. So if you're not totally within the zone of giving and making yourself available to others, then you're just not a team player.
Wow. I love this because I'm 40. I just turned 46 the other day, right? So here I am. Thank you. I have a 6 and 9, almost 7 and 9-year-old and 2 boys, and we live alone, and I'm full of overwhelm. And look, I've been through a lot. Everyone has at this point. And speaking of burnout, that word just reminds me of the pandemic. And that's how I kind of learned that term. And you learned about the healthcare, right? And people were burned out, but then you realize, no, people are also burned out from their jobs, from their families, from everything they do day in and day out. And people pleasing being one of the biggest ones, which I know we all fall trapped to. There's, and then with the pandemic, speaking of burnout, it became like, well, here's a change. It's a hard change. People lost jobs, lost wages, lost lives. But a lot of people had to pivot, right? And relearn a new job, relearn a new trait. And I mean, that's pretty amazing because I've heard such amazing success stories have people overcoming, and not just from the pandemic, but in general. And this is what you're doing by empowering so many, and giving, these women out there that chance, that because people are scared. It's like you're walking on eggshells and you don't know who to talk to work with. And my advice, family and friends, not always the best solution. You need a non-subjective person. Have you been there as well?
Oh, it's so true. I mean, because, family and friends too, they mean well, but we all have our judgments, and the people almost who know you the longest have the most collection of the biggest collection of narratives about who you are and who you should be. So really, it's really what I love about coaching is it's not, you come to a coach to have a dynamic relationship. It's a co-creation. It's a very creative process where it's not kind of, where somebody's just kind of nodding their head and holding their chin, listening to your problems. It's more like, hey, how about, have you thought of this? Or what's the motivation behind that decision that you've made? And you ask open-ended
Yeah.
questions that are non-judgmental so people can get to their answers faster.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. And let's talk a little bit about helping them through this. And I know there's all different types of packages, how you work with someone, but also you want to talk mindfulness. I don't want to jump the gun. This is your show. So what did you want to share next? How does that sound?
Well, all of it, all of it. I mean, I think, mindfulness is a big part. It's a word it's kind of like greenwashing with companies, like, oh yeah, we're sustainable. It's the same thing. Mindfulness is really kind of lost its meaning because it's overused. But really, what it is about, like I have a lot of my clients start a meditation practice because what you're doing is you're rewiring the neural pathways in your brain from your fear brain to your sage brain, which makes it easier to come up with logical decisions and grounded decisions and decisions that are in your best interest. When we're operating from our fear brain, the reptilian brain, the sympathetic brain, as it's called too, in neuroscience, we're reacting rather than responding. And so we're not showing up as our best selves, and we're not showing up as our best advocates. So mindfulness really helps us get to that next space. And when we do that in conjunction with coaching, it really accelerates the process. And it helps people develop a skill that they're going to have a tool, rather, that they're going to use for the rest of their lives. And in the business, in the workplace, I love it because not only does it foster a sense of wellness and stress management and showing up as your best self, but it also makes for better relationships. It makes for better planning. It really increases the bottom line because productivity is involved as well. We're able to focus more. So mindfulness is super important, whether it's in business or in real life. And really, the biggest complaint I get from my clients is, I can't sit there and not think about anything. Well, no one can. The brain is wired for survival, not happiness. And so what we're doing is we're kind of hacking it with mindfulness by choosing to take the pause, choosing to take the breath, and being aware of the feelings behind our feelings. So it's really useful, especially, and then you add on, hormone changes for women in midlife, and it's really the pause we need. The pause and the menopause.
I got it. By the way, we got to remind everyone how we can reach you. Lori, share your website with us.
Sure. It's lorivarsames.com. It's LORIVARSAMES.
Perfect. And do you also have a phone number or a social media page you want to share with us?
Yes, you can reach me on Instagram or on Facebook at Lori Varsames Coaching, or also at my email address, which is coach@lorivarsames.com.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much. We urge everyone to go to the website. And we're here talking today about, whether you want to start a business, you want to grow personally, make a different career change. There's so much to life. And also, there's some great testimonials I was reading on your website earlier, which I believe, is important for people to read. Can I just share one or two?
Sure.
Lindsay Roberts says all the coaching sessions sessions with you are truly from a place of genuine interest, heartfelt intention to connect with clients. Your insights are spot on, always insightful, sparking a need for gentle but needed change. Lots of aha moments, which I'm sure a lot of your clients say, and feeling immediately at ease. She made it seem like I was talking to my best friend with amazing insight versus a coach with just some life skills to apply and a worksheet to fill out. Your mission is to empower women, she says, to be the very best version of themselves. Her decades of experience in the business world and overcoming health issues also means she's able to understand exactly what your challenges are in your unique situation. She's on the path to doing exactly what her soul calls her to do. And that is how you know she's just the person you need to speak with. Now, that's one of many. I was reading before, and then I even saw, a gentleman, Matthew Long, who left a beautiful comment too. Is just curious. So, do you do male coaching as well?
I do. I do male coaching. I do focus my message towards women, but
Mm-hmm.
I am delighted to serve men as well. In my
Perfect.
group coaching, it's specifically for women, but otherwise one-on-one coaching for all genders.
Got it. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. So before we tell everyone more, we want to let them know there's also a 30-minute, is it a discovery call that you offer?
Yeah, it's a free 30-minute. I call it a chemistry call to see if we're a good
Yes.
fit. Yeah, it's free. You can sign up on my website at lorivarsames.com, or if you get on my social media pages, it's all in my link trees.
Perfect. All right. So one-on-one coaching, group coaching, you name it, she does it. Now, what other aspect of your work do you want to share with us?
Well, one of the things that this last year, part of being a certified professional coach means that you have to do continuing ed, which I love. I'm a lifelong learner, but I think that we all should be doing that in our professions. And I'm certified through as a certified professional coactive coach through the Coactive Training Institute. I'm an ACC, which is an associate certified coach through
Mm-hmm.
the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, and I also am a trauma-informed coach through Moving the Human Spirit. So that means that while you definitely want to go to a therapist for healing from trauma, but with coaching, if you've done a lot of that work and you're ready to still move forward, if I always think of coaching as if therapy is how past trauma is getting in your way of the
Mm-hmm.
present, is influencing your present, coaching is how your present's getting in the way of your future. So coaching's more forward focused, goal oriented, and knowing what your trauma is, we can coach with that so that to get you moving in the right direction.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Now, thank you for sharing also your credentials. It's always important. Okay, I know a lot of people can be life coaches, but not everyone's certified. So that's also important to point out. And Lori, you live in Sonoma, right? Which I finally went
Yes.
to for the first time a few months ago. Gorgeous. Is that where you're
No,
from? Where were you raised?
no. I was born in Yonkers, New York, and raised in Vermont.
Hey, wow, fellow New Yorker,
So
really?
yeah, so I love serving people back east. I serve people all over the place, and I've served a client in London and also Montreal. So whenever we can agree on the time zone, that's where I'd like to coach you wherever you are. But I've been in California now for I think it's 14 years, and I absolutely love it.
All right. Well, this is exciting because you have, it starts with that chemistry call, but there really is, as you mentioned, a science behind coaching, right? And that's what you learned in
Yes.
your studies. And could you maybe give us an example of someone you've working with, how it kind of works to break it down for someone? And, are we committed to a certain amount of sessions? Is there a package? We just want to learn more.
Sure. Um, let's see. I'm trying to remember the first part of your question. But essentially, when we work together, it's for a minimum of 12
Hmm.
sessions, which is over 6 months. So unlike therapy, which tends to be once a week, we do every other week or at least twice a month. And the idea being that you have some time to process the learnings and apply them to your life. And then after that, I mean, I serve some clients for 6 months. Sometimes it's longer. I had one client that I worked with for 6 months to talk about self-confidence and, you know, give her courage to, or help her find her own courage to transition out of a long-term job. And then the second 6 months was I developed a little bit of mentorship in there and consulting because I was a consultant in marketing and sales, and she was looking to start her own business. So that was really fun. We worked together for a year, and we still tap in every now and then. Coaching sessions are 60 minutes,
Okay.
and then after the 6 months, some people you can renew, or and some people like that same client that I worked with for a year in two different capacities came back and said, "Hey, I'd love to have a tune-up." So I do 90-minute tune-ups to do a
Yeah.
deep dive with former clients about an issue that's been bugging.
Beautiful. Good to know. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, also, could you maybe talk a little bit about what coaching even is, right? Because some people get confused with, well, do I need a mental health counselor? Do I need a psychologist? Could you kind of hone in on, coaching and what are some of the things it can actually help with?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, coaching is great for just about everything. What it's not great for is healing from trauma. So if you have some stuff in the past, abuse situations, anything that is really kind of getting you down in your
Mm-hmm.
relationships and you haven't processed in therapy, it can be hard to do in coaching. But what coaching is really great for is moving you forward. So the instances when, most of my clients come to me for job changes, career changes, trying to assess whether or not they should stay in the relationships they're in, whether or not they want to start a business, which is hard to do in midlife because we get used to um, our lifestyle. We're set in our ways. We're a little bit more comfortable than we've ever been. We might be earning a little bit
Yep.
more money than we've had in the past, so it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to make those changes. Um, anyway, yeah, it's it's exciting. I like it because it's a dynamic thing, and it's very similar to therapy. I mean, except that you're not going to sit there for 20 minutes and
Yep.
talk endlessly. A
Got it.
coach is going to jump in and be like, I hear this. Uh, are you getting in your way here? Tell me more about that. And kind of, I think of a coaching relationship as kind of like a sailboat. The coach knows the compass points that you've set into the GPS and is steering the ship in that direction. And the client is the wind and the
Yeah.
sails that's powering the ship forward.
Now that is a beautiful definition. I don't know if you can patent that or if that's someone else's. That's great. I've never heard it described that way. So that's all. That's beautiful. Wow. Okay. Wow. Good job. Now,
Thank you.
you're also helping people kind of replace those old habits, right? And bringing the new ones forth.
Mhm.
And so we call this habit changing, right? And normally, how
Yes.
long does it take to change a habit in a sense?
Well, there are all those books that tell you really it's like 21 days, but more than anything, I think it's about what your level of commitment is to that
Hmm.
change. And coaching is very much accountability. And what I do tell people, especially because I got a little bit of a New York edge, is that coaching is not coddling. I'll love you up hard, but I'm going to call you out on your stuff. You got to want the change. And part of that, even if, I have one client that I love because she reminds me too that sometimes it's not about the big leaps, but it's about the baby steps. And really, it's just as long as you are mindfully moving forward in however small or large a step, then you are moving forward.
Oh, beautifully said. Now, have you, I know you've overcome some obstacles. Did you want to share some of that with us?
Sure. I mean, I think my biggest belly flop, I've had a few, definitely, was, oh gosh, it's hard to know the biggest, but I think the most recent one was I was working for a company in the marketing department. I was incredibly unhappy because I had been freelancing prior to that. So I got to wear a lot of hats. I had a lot of say in the game. And then being stuck in one position in one department really chapped me the wrong way. It was not my best moment. I didn't show up as my best self.
Hmm.
I got easily triggered in meetings, and I was working with people who I didn't feel like were very supportive of me. And there wasn't a night like a spirit of sisterhood among the women that I worked with, which I was really disappointed by because I
Yeah.
had been working in all male workplaces. And so, when I tell that story, when I told that story at the time, it was so much different than how I've told it now. And I think that's really a direct effect of the coaching work I had, going to coaching myself, getting the training, but also my mindfulness practice to realize that
Yep.
that narrative sounded a lot different. It was more like I was the victim in the other
Yep.
story. Everybody was mean to me. There was a lot of bullying. All of those things were true, but it wasn't taking accountability for my own impact. And so since I've learned that,
Aw.
um, it's important.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. And did you want to discuss a little bit in your notes? I was reading about mentors. You've had some great mentors. Did anyone you want to credit or talk about today as well?
Oh, totally. I wish he was here to hear it himself, but my high school history teacher, Michael Perro from Rice Memorial High School in Burlington, Vermont, South Burlington, Vermont, he was amazing. I remember being in one of his history classes and he was offering a trip to Europe, a 30-day trip to Europe. And I got my first job in a bagel bakery in order to save for that trip. He had us come in and learn about travel. And really, his motto was be flexible and have a sense of humor. And I don't think I ever would have had the courage to leave my small town had it not been
Uh,
for him teaching me about travel and opening my eyes to what else was going on in the world.
well, thank you. That's, amazing to have someone like that. And what about you yourself? Have you mentored someone as well?
Yeah, yeah. I don't normally like to talk about specifics, but I particularly, um, I love mentoring younger women, particularly in their early 30s. That's probably when I first had my early midlife crisis, when I had made a major life change. I had moved from Paris, France, to Taos, New Mexico, and it was such a talk about a pivot. It was full on culture shock, and it's a time in your life I learned
Yeah.
that where in the early 30s, like the era of it's the same time that Jesus, Muhammad, and Buddha were all enlightened. And it's a time when we are looking at the values that we grew up with and saying, wait a second, something's not working. I'm doing
Yep.
all the things, but it doesn't fit.
Hmm.
So I love mentoring women at that age because that's when I had my first what does it all mean crisis and didn't have a lot of people who could help me with that.
Yep.
So that's my favorite.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. And we still have just 4 minutes left to go here. What else did you want to share about the value of being coached, about the work you're doing? What else did you
Oh,
want to
man.
add?
Just coaching, we're talking about science. I think I missed that in the response, but science really proves the benefits of coaching as a way to improve communication, facilitate relationships, make you more accountable. I mean, the list is long, and if you don't believe me, Google it. I believe Harvard has a study on it that I think my website links to that talks a lot about that. And I think that coaching is fabulous. And I will tell you this, just to be fully candid, coaching is pricier than therapy. And I'm saying that to be fully transparent. I also offer a group coaching that's coming up actually in February, starting February
Ah, tell us. This is
21st.
good.
Yes. Yeah, it's small group. It's called Your Midlife Masterpiece. It's really designed to kind of kickstart your life changes. And I really find that not only is it more affordable, but it's also more boom, 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 boom. It's once a week for 90 minutes. You get 15 hours of coaching for half the price of a regular coaching, individual coaching scenario. And you're learning and growing in community, which particularly for women is very important. That notion of sisterhood and holding the space for one another, learning from each other's stories and motivating each other in between sessions has been
Beautiful.
really great. I have a lot of clients that are friends after that group coaching. So I love
Wonderful.
that.
All right. How do we sign up? How do we get there? How do we contact you? And you offer an initial
Yes.
discovery call, right?
Yes, if you're interested, whether you're interested in one-on-one coaching or group coaching, you can find me at lorivarsames.com. It's LORIVARSAM as in Mary, ES And if you scroll on the home page or even the contact page, you can sign up for a free 30-minute chemistry call, see if we're a good fit, ask
Good.
questions about whether one-on-one coaching or group coaching is right for you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you here. Great to see you and glad we're connected.
Thank you.
And looking forward really to, I guess, the next time we speak. Also, wait, just one other question. Social media pages, do you have any? I forgot.
Yes, on Instagram and Facebook at Lori Varsames Coaching.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic day and looking forward to the
Thank
next
you,
time we get
Jill.
to chat. Thank you so much.
Same. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Absolutely. It still is. And that's why you got to get started now. Make yourself better. Make it, do it. You got one life to live and make it the best we can. Thanks again, Lori. Have a great day. Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.